Thank you everyone for coming today. I appreciate your time. Man, cybersecurity is just spiraling and there's so much information to know. So I want to be able to give you some information where you can have some critical action steps like to take from today and to be able to apply it where you're at your workplace and whatever position you're in. I want you to also, my goal for today is to be able to kind of bring back this concept of basically digital literacy, and also to just enforce the concept of critical thinking, just because there's so much happening beyond our kind of physical world. We need to pay more attention to kind of the digital landscape that's before us. So what we'll cover is we'll cover and explain the basics of cybersecurity. We'll talk about why it's an identity crisis today. We'll discuss the threat landscape and how it applies to you. And then some of the best practices that you can take. So these action items that you can take and use with you and your teammates, and then answer questions. Now, I would love to have your questions, so throw them in the chat box for sure. And as I cover any topic, just ask the question, no problem. I definitely want to be able to have a discussion about things that are pressing on your mind today, because there's lots of information out there and a lot of it's confusing. So I want to ask you a question to start with, and that is, Matt will put up a little poll, and it is, how many unknown texts do you get on your cell phone? Let's just talk about your cell phone. How many unknown texts do you get?
Poll is just launching here. It should appear on your screen or in the chat shortly. Got the responses slowly rolling in here. I'll let it all stabilize before.
Please, everybody, feel free. Yeah, please feel free, everyone, to put your responses in. I know this applies to everybody. This is why I'm asking. You know, this is an environment where we all are on common ground here, and no question or new challenges too odd at this juncture. So I want to be able to address some of these for you as well, take away some of the unfamiliar issues or the unknown ways of handling some of these targeted communication that you're getting. So interesting enough, I see the poll. So thank you. Feel free to close it.
Right.
Thank you for sharing. So most of you are getting how many a day? Matt, how many?
So 75% are getting 1 to 3 a day. And then, yeah, a day. And then we have 20% getting none, and then 5% getting 7 to 10 per day. Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. So I want you to be able to put on that critical thinking hat today, because I want you to see it from a few different lenses. One is yourself personally, yourself professionally, and then just to add things to make it more interesting, your family members. Okay, so if you're getting that many a day, that means everyone around you is getting that many a day. Okay, so keep that in mind as we proceed. So I want you to know you are the target, and that is just one example of how you're a target. Now, I have a lot of clients and friends who go, well, I have nothing to offer. Why would I be a target? I have nothing. Now, that is the lie. And that's where I want to address that, is I want to change your thinking, and I want you to understand that you do have something of value. And even though you may not think it's of value, hackers and fraudsters will exploit all of the technology you use to be able to craft scams and target you in different ways to be able to exploit and get information they want. And you are the gateway for that. So, and how are you the gateway? Is because you're working in a company that touches valuable data. And so that data is important to them. So it's confidential data, for example. So that's crucial in your day-to-day business, right? Whether you're dealing with HR files, financial records, any client data that you're handling. We call it PII, personally identifiable information. Anything that's considered under the privacy law, PIPEDA, you have to guard with following those laws and protect that with inside of your company with certain guardrails so that it's protected, so that no unauthorized user gets access to it. So when you're looking at that, you would have to think about what kind of PII do you use every day. So we call it crown jewels. So crown jewels is the most valuable data your company has access to and uses. So depending on the firm that you are, whether you're a law firm, whether you're a construction firm, whether you're a healthcare firm, or offer any health services or basically any kind of personal services, you're providing a service, but in return, you're getting that client data, and that client data is personal and confidential. So when we're looking at that, you may handle certain parts of those data points, maybe not all, but at the end of the day, think about what data you're handling every day. And think about whether you're handling a SIN number or you're handling bank records. Those are all crown jewels, and those are all needing to be guarded with utmost efforts within your organization. And so when you think about that, most people I find that I interact with may know that they're handling, 70% of data that's confidential, but they don't realize how much in the magnitude. So that is where you are a valuable asset to a hacker. You are a valuable asset to a scammer because you're having an access point to data that they can take and remove from your company and exploit it. And the whole game is to be able to exploit it for money. So imagine, the cartel, like El Chapo and his Sinaloa cartel. They're out for money, and they're going to do anything they can to be able to obtain power and money with the selling of drugs. And now they're obviously expanding their business. I don't know if you've heard, but they're in the avocado business too. Yeah, believe it or not. But they're a sophisticated criminal organization. And I, much before the time that they were considered terrorists, thought they were terrorists because they will do nothing. They will stop at nothing to be able to get access to the money and access to anything that they serve that can serve them. So when you're looking at that, we also have different criminal organizations out there that are digital criminals, and we call them ransomware gangs or hackers. Hackers are part of ransomware gangs, so they're like a gang, but they're digital gangs, and we call them ransomware gangs, and they all have their own names. So this particular picture here is a Lockbit ransomware gang, and this is the leader. So they've been a prolific ransomware gang for years, stealing billions and billions of dollars from organizations over a solid 5-year term. This leader was recently found, not necessarily captured, believe it or not, but found. So having a track record of finding these ransomware gangs is very low for all federal agencies because they don't have a strong digital footprint. They have found means to cover up their digital footprint. They can brag about a breach that they are cyber incident that they are part of, but they will not necessarily be found or charged. So the fact that we could find one leader of a ransomware gang is pretty incredible. But I want you to understand that these ransomware gangs are targeting our companies, small, medium, and large, every day and continually nonstop. They don't work 9 to 5. We do. So I want you to consider today's session. We're going to equip ourselves with understanding them because it's an us against them. And I really want to emphasize that because the only way for us to get this accountability and enforcement around our behavior and our actions within our organization to protect it is to understand the real threat to our organization and ourselves personally and what that is, how that is occurring. And it really is not about you personally, it's about what you can provide for them and our access point for what you can get them. So we have to stop thinking, oh, it's not going to happen to me, and oh, I'm going to trust everything I see and everything I do because I'm just doing good work and I'm trying to do my best for my company. We have to think about it differently because they are continually going to be hunting for access to data and PII because they can sell it. So it doesn't matter how big your company is, 10 people, 100 people, or 1,000 people, or 10,000 people. It doesn't matter. If they can find an access point to get into your organization and they can retrieve it and steal it with unauthorized access without you knowing, they have a lot of power to be able to sell it and make more money. So it is a big, big money game. Just like the cartel make money selling drugs, human trafficking, and now avocado business, it's all for the gain of money. And they will exploit that by using the data to be able to get the money that they can sell in a dark web marketplace. So when you're looking at the PII you handle, Matt, if you don't mind putting up this poll, think about what PII do you handle every week? And you'll be surprised, some people don't understand even employee numbers are considered PII.
Sweet. So I just see some responses rolling in now. Employee data, personal number, so personal phone numbers, account numbers, customer info, emails, payroll, names.
Yeah, names, yeah.
Banking info.
Yes, yes. And all of that is really considered crown jewels. Go ahead, please put in what you think you're handling for a PII every day or every week. Maybe you're not handling it simply every day, but what you think is PII, personally identifiable information. I'd like everyone to put a response in. This is a good exercise for you to challenge yourself if you're not sure what you're providing services for and using and accessing, right? Client SIN, yeah, perfect. Employee performance, yep, 100%. That's true. Performance data is really, really critical because it is data points that are connected to a person, their name, full name, and possibly their employee records. So there's too many data points that would connect them to that individual. So as you can see, even though you can say, here's a banking number, you know that that banking number is connected to a human, and that human has privacy rights, and that's confidential, like to me and me alone, right? And so when we're looking at these medical number, health records are, obviously we found in Ontario, we follow PIPA. In Canada, we follow PIPEDA for, again, protecting private records of individuals. So you are working in organizations where you're handling it. You're handling it every week. And so those pieces of data points, even though you're not necessarily possibly even responsible for guarding them, you're touching them, you're handling them in one way or another, and you have access to them. So I want you to think about it as the gateway to the valuable data. You are the gateway, so you're the door to get there. Because you have access to it, that means you are a target for that reason alone, if you even think that what you're touching isn't valuable. Because it's easy to think that. And so that's where I want us to be able to reframe how we work every day, what we're working with every day, and what we're doing with what we work with, okay? So we really are in this identity crisis, right? So because hackers know if they can get to any part of you and your identity, they can get into the company. And if they can get into the company, they can get the data. And then if they can get the data, they can steal it. And then if they can steal it, they can sell it. And if they can sell it, they can make millions of dollars and then exploit the company to be able to, ruin their brand, ruin their, put fear of God in the stakeholders, the clients. You can lose clients, and you can lose incredible amounts of money if your company is down because of loss of data and an incident where you have no idea how that was stolen, right? So you have to understand you are the critical part of the organization. It's not the organization, right? And what we're also finding is the government is doing what they can, companies are doing what they can, laws are doing what they can, but they're just not enough because they can't protect you with everything you do because you are the target. So you're about to be conned. And remember when we were mentioning how many texts you get a day? That's part of it. That's one avenue in which you could be conned, right? 82% of employees are 82% of cyber incidences are caused by uninformed employees. And it's not that you're deliberately uninformed. It's just that these methods are changing so fast, being targeted always in a different way. And whenever we realize one method, they change it and revise it and then adapt. Cut the head off of one snake and another one pops up. So there's spear phishing, and that's where it's targeted to you if you're running, a financial controller. And if you're a VP, then they'll target you specifically. So they'll target all different sizes of companies, but it doesn't matter to them the size anymore because they just have to get to the employee. So how do they do this? They have all types of different services, digital services. So they're the expert con artists. They ploy with you in every different way, whether it's through urgency or through emotion. So Microsoft remains to be the most frequently imitated brand, with 43% of its phishing attempts by using this tactic. Right? So you all use Microsoft, most of you. So you will see incoming messages that will be a ploy to be able to follow a command that you think is from Microsoft, right? But then there's all different types of scams out there. So here are just 12 examples. That's not the limitation. And like I said, the services are continually evolving. You'll see phishing as a service. You will see scamming as a service, and then you'll see vishing as a service, right? So with the involvement of AI, this has become easier than ever. Easier because one, we can't detect it. Two, there's no errors for us to be able to see. So then we aren't sure how to detect what is real and what is not. So when you look at what your daily risks are, over 75% of targeted attacks begin with phishing emails. So that means your workplace also is being bombarded. Forget about your phone, your email. So your company will have, like maybe your company hires a company like Smart Dolphins that will manage your business and will filter scams and filter any of the emails that are not legitimate and prevent access to you. However, with the evolvement of AI, they're moving and able to go past those filters so that these incidences are not necessarily going to be reduced or stopped because, again, they're continually adapting so that they can have an access to you. So they're not going to stop because it's $1 million, billion-dollar industry really, but some of these ransomware gangs make millions a month. So that's a lot of money they don't want to give up. And all it means is they just have to change their tactic, but they still have to email you and they could possibly get you to do what they want. They're going to do it. So here, a lot of new employees within 3 weeks are the target of a hacker's tactic, usually within 3 weeks, one way or another. So when you look at this is a particularly simple targeted attack. And they do a massive campaign. So they don't just say, okay, Emily, I'm going to just send this email to you. No, it isn't personal. It is a campaign where it's just like they're throwing at a net a fish to fish. They'll send out 1,000 and then they'll see who takes the bait, right? So when you look at this link, you have to look at the link and see how real is it. You might have to hover over it to determine if it's real. More than likely it's not, because you have to also go, is the signature real? Is it how they would sign off? You don't know. Maybe you don't know. Maybe you do. If you're a new employee, more than likely you don't. But when it comes to a type of email like this as a Microsoft product, it's easy to duplicate it to look exactly how you would get it from your HR manager or your VP or your team leader. So we have to step back and look at these and understand, one, our IT company will do as much as they can to support you so that they can filter these email scams, but that isn't necessarily going to stop them. So you have to take a moment to look at these and review them differently, because again, it is not about finding errors, it's about the context now. Were you expecting that? Is it legit for what the company would do? If you don't know, what do you do about it, right? So it's now like cybersecurity isn't a technical issue anymore, it's a human one. And so we have to understand that it's ridiculous that we have to be bombarded with this. It's ridiculous that we have to deal with this when we don't have necessarily the expertise, the knowledge, or understanding of what we're up against. But what we can do is we can understand some of the basic concepts that are coming at us every day. And what I do know is that, one, phishing is here to stay. It is. It's not necessarily going to go away. So we have to be aware that you are being inundated, and you have to look at every incoming message with a little bit of a critical eye, because their goal is to get you to click or respond to that email and do what they want you to do, right? So that link is where the malicious malware will come, and that's how it gets into your system, because that malicious link will drop a payload of malware, and it has different purposes. Depends on what the hacker wants to do with it, drops it into your system, and then it basically shuts down your whole system so they can have control over all of your data. I won't go into the technicalities of it, but at the end of the day, if you understand how it would shut down a system, it means no one has access to any software or computer or any part of that network, because they have shut it down and they've taken control over it. So we don't want to ever click on a link. We don't want to ever give a malicious actor any information that is not authorized. So we have to look at this with a critical eye. And if we have any questions or anything looks suspicious, we have to step back and we have to take a pause. And it's okay to take a pause. Your boss would rather you take a pause and go, doubt it, delete it, than go, oh, I better do this because I'm asked to do it. We no longer have to do that. We have to have digital literacy around our communication channels, because we are being tricked from every direction that we work. And again, we have lots of incoming communication channels, right? Whether you're social media, whether you're marketing, you're going to have tons of incoming messages that way. Even personally, if you're using social media, incoming messages that will be fake. Whether you're using different online CRMs, whether you're using just communication channels within your organization, you have to be critical. So what we also know, and I've experienced, is stolen or compromised credentials are number 2 cause of data breaches. So that means you'll get that fake email that says you have to update your password, and then you do it and it's actually them stealing your password. Now that's one way, but I'm going to tell you there's dozens of other ways that they can steal your credentials, your username and your password. So you as a target, when you're logging into, let's say, an HR software or Microsoft Office, the only way that you get into it to be able to identify the services that you need to work on is because you're using your email address and your password, so that it's you entering into that software. So this is what they're banking on, is if they can steal that from you, which is the number 2 cause, then they can get into that exact same software you're using. So it's an easy win for them. And then once they're in that software, then they can get into anything else, assuming that they can see the same accounts. Maybe you're having the same credentials. So it is a really easy method of getting access to software, because those are the 2 ways we get into it: username and password. So because your phone is your access point as well, you can't trust any incoming messages. Like, you literally can't. So this was a text that I got, and obviously I'm being bombarded the same way you are. I'm no different. But what we have to know is that we have to recognize when they're scams. Now, I talk about this with all sorts of people, and sometimes they're hard to tell. So I don't have a Netflix account. So this was a perfect example for me to go, critical thinking hat on. I don't have an account. But when I was looking at it, I went, this isn't a way for you to deal with your account to begin with. Unless you have a verified source to say, I know I work with them through texting, it's fine. But if you don't, why would you even believe this for a second, right? So you look at the phone number, you look, because they can spoof your phone number, spoof any phone number, sorry. So you can't trust that either, right? And then you can't trust the link that's being sent in that text either. So at the end of the day, that's a scam. So I'm going to delete it. But you're not going to necessarily detect it every time. Because if you have a legitimate account with another, like let's say a Visa or a MasterCard, you will think, well, I guess I'll have to respond that way. Nowadays, that's where you have to take pause and you have to question, because at the end of the day, they can spoof any particular company and any particular message to look exactly like that company. So when we look at scamming as a service, I don't know if any of you have heard of scam compounds. So even though hackers are running fine-tuned machines to be able to reach and target organizations through malicious software, scamming compounds are run by the same concept of really elaborate systems set up in different countries like Cambodia, and it's a $63 billion year global revenue industry. So we have to understand, you can't just, I mean, it's evil, these scam compounds. They'll target anyone, and their goal is to be able to make sure that they can utilize the people they have imprisoned to be able to set up services so that they can reach out to you and target you and target you and target you. So that was also part of why you're getting all these texts, and a lot of the friends I have and professionals are like, man, this is getting worse and worse. And it's because the scam compounds are finding ways to evade the law, and they're being able to set up in different countries and apartments, and to be able to hide this product, the services they're offering, and then putting people to do this type of work. And it's basically slavery for sure, but basically the goal is to be able to steal information from you. So how many of you have money in your bank account? Well, that is what they're wanting. So they're going to find a way. So as soon as they can get you to have communication with them one way or another, they're going to be able to try to scam you for money. Now think about your parents. Are they going to be aware of this, right? And there, again, you're seeing all different tactics. I'm seeing the Amazon, I'm seeing all of it, but then also there's phone calls. So we have to look at this and realize it's coming in different directions at us, targeting us in every way, and it's kind of exhausting. So I just want to show you an example, a simple example of how quickly this can happen. So as you can see, the consequences of engaging with unexpected texts or calls, whether personal or professional, can be really severe. So due to the rising threats of smishing, we call it smishing, but it's basically SMS texting or SMS phishing. So, and then when we're looking at other types of data out there that's happening over the last 12 months, 42% reported cyber instances in 2024. So those numbers are staying consistent. They kind of rise and fall over the years, but cyber incidences are occurring to different sizes of businesses, not just large businesses. And 94% of small and medium businesses faced cyber attacks in 2024, up 73% in 2023. And what's happening is the criminals are obviously figuring out your company is just as vulnerable as a Amazon or Cisco or Microsoft. So they can find the vulnerabilities in your organization, and they can find the vulnerabilities with your people, because one, you don't have resources, and two, you don't have the technology to combat them, right? So to stop them in their tracks. So between the two, because hackers will come at two fronts, technology and through people, they're realizing small organizations are more vulnerable. And so they'll target them in different ways, but they're targeting them because they have success. And then the global average cost of data breach is 4.8 million. And again, that goes up and down a little bit, but stays pretty consistent, but it is rising. And there is usually about five top cyber ransomware gangs that are out there that are most prolific. And then there's, maybe 10, 15 others, but they kind of hit the, we rate them every quarter. We rate what they target. So whether targeting medical, academia, banking, crypto, and then we research and review what malware they're using. We research what countries they're hitting, what size of organizations they're hitting. So there's different reports out there that will give us that data point, so we understand what we're up against and how they're changing their technology and their tactics and their processes and their protocols around targeting organizations. And it's really important for somebody like me to be aware and follow that, so we can understand what to be able to do to build our defenses up against them as an organization. So some of the cyber breaches that have happened in the last, over the last year are the First Nations Health Authority, Toronto Public Library, Government of BC, London Drugs, and WestJet. So I don't know if you knew WestJet had a cyber breach on June 13th. I'm just wondering if you could look it up for me right now and tell me if you can find out what data was stolen, if it reveals what data was stolen or what happened with WestJet. So if you could look it up, and then put it in the chat box if you could find anything about that. So basically, it's been a month and a few days since their cyber breach has been publicized. What do we know? I mean, I'm a client of WestJet. I've flown with WestJet. I don't know if any of you have, but more than likely some of you have. So this applies to you, because a cyber incident for WestJet means your data is vulnerable to whatever that hacker has retrieved. So if you can put in the chat box if there's any information that we can grab from. Okay, so some of the answers are personal and travel related data was leaked, but no payment information was included in the leaked data. Credit card was compromised. Yeah, so what does that mean, right? So that means some personal and travel related data was leaked, and it varies from person to person. So what would you need to know as a consumer? So this is directly affecting a lot of Canadians, because most Canadians have used WestJet in the past. So that means their whole client base is vulnerable to whatever happened in that cyber incident. Now, what we're finding is there's not a lot of information disclosed. Yes, someone raise their hand. Go ahead. You can ask a question if you want. You can unmute yourself.
Sorry, their microphones are disabled, but I can enable those really quickly.
Okay.
Just give me 1 second here.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Now, does this put a fear of God in you? I mean, do you care? I want you to care. I want you to be aware that this is happening all around you. Okay, go ahead. I think you can speak now.
Yeah, should be.
Go ahead, Mia. I can't hear you. So a few things that I want to maybe bring to your attention so that from this session, you can at least take away when a company has a cyber breach like that, and it applies to you, which that really does, you would have to change your password with that account, first of all. You don't know what's happening, so you have to be proactive. You have to remove all your personal details, like your credit card information, for example, that you can. Now, is it too late? For sure, some of it's too late, but at the end of the day, you still have to be proactive to be able to protect yourself as much as you can, right? And then what I would recommend is you pay attention and review the monthly updates that WestJet gives, because this does pertain to you. So then once you know what's stolen, you can then go handle that yourself personally. So if your credit card was compromised, you have to be able to report that to your credit card company. Now, is this WestJet's fault? For sure. Can WestJet fix it? They're going to fix what they can after the damage is done, but that doesn't mean the damage isn't done. So your credit cards are compromised, your data is compromised, your personal information is compromised. How much of it? We don't know, but you should assume that it is your personal data that has been compromised. Why would a hacker come in and just go, I'm just going to grab only Alberta's ID and Alberta's personal information, not BC's? Like, they're not going to be that selective. They're going to go full sweep. It's a data set that they can take, they can steal, and they can resell. So we don't know the magnitude of this, but at the end of the day, you have to look at it and be proactive, have your critical thinking hat on, and just go, imagine if someone walked in your door while you were having dinner and decided to be able to rob you, and how would you handle that? And they stole your credit card and all of your ID. You would have to act on that and protect your identity and protect your assets. So because you don't know what's happening, I would recommend you be proactive and then follow it diligently, because this applies to you, right? You don't necessarily have to worry about Toronto Public Library because you might not have a library card there. But the breaches that do apply to you, I would say this is where you go, your personal data, PII, has been compromised. So then you can see on the other end, you're now a victim of particular this type of attack. So you can see it from both lenses now. It's not going to necessarily harm you, or it may make life inconvenient, because the thing is, you have to possibly get a new credit card. You have to possibly double check your credit. You might have to be on a monitoring system. WestJet more than likely will give you free monitoring for a year. But at the end of the day, that's still not enough if you don't know where your data went, right? So just keep in mind that this is something where you are now going to have to be proactive about protecting your identity, because you are a customer of WestJet, and now WestJet has been compromised. So we don't want to be like WestJet. We don't want to be on that end explaining it to all their customers. And Manal sent the website link, and honestly, that website, I appreciate that they gave updates, but those are really poor examples of updates. If you're thinking about your credit card, your personal information, your home address, all at stake here, all to be resold or reused or publicized for and to be exploited, I would say they could do better, but that's not my job to tell them. But at the end of the day, they all handle these breaches differently, because they're all backed up against the wall, right? Shareholders are losing their minds. Obviously, clients are losing their minds, and they're losing money as the days go because of this kind of compromise. So they have, yes, Linda, they have legal obligations to inform their customers. But I think the reason they're not informing their customers right now is because they don't know actually what's happened. And you think, okay, it's been since July 13th. Truth be told is those cyber criminals have been in that system way sooner and way earlier than June 13th. That was the day WestJet notified the public. So privacy laws require that you have to do it within like a 45-day period. But the thing is that they could have had this happening for months beforehand and did not even know it. So the thing is that WestJet will notify you once they know what they can notify you with, but they don't have enough information. This is really not enough time for them to be able to investigate a breach. They have, they'll call it a cyber incident because it sounds less invasive to you. But at the end of the day, they're going to tell you it was a breach when they can confirm how many records were stolen. But if they don't know, they have to keep that information tight-lipped because they can't be misleading anybody. But they will release something once these forensic investigators can reveal what happened, how it happened, and who was compromised. So first of all, you don't see how it happened. So they can't say anything at all because they actually don't even know that yet either. So when you think about if your house got robbed, you would go, well, how did that happen? You would go, oh, they busted down the door, they broke the lock, or they picked the lock. You would know clearly, concisely how it happened. Well, these forensic investigators, they need time to be able to determine the actual entry point into their digital systems in their network. So you'll just have to follow their website, follow their updates, and find out what actually happened, what was stolen, when they have that information that they're legally allowed to share. Again, this is all about liability at this point in time because they're under scrutiny, and under the laws, privacy laws, they're also going to be liable on that front. So the laws say, privacy laws in Canada say, that once they report that and they have done everything they can to protect it, there could be they could be liable if they don't take the necessary steps to protect you as a client from unnecessary harm. So I'm trusting they're doing that. We're a lot more adept at handling cyber incidences now as opposed to 5 years ago. But the thing is that I would just say you just have to stand tight and wait for the continuing in the rest of the story. So this all leads to passwords. I'll tell you, usually, like when it comes to most of these breaches, it's password access. They've stolen someone's password and they've accessed it. So let's just assume that, but hard to say. Maybe they, as staff, clicked a malicious link. I'm really curious, and it'll be kind of exciting to be able to find out how this actually happened. But for you and your organization, you have some best practices are to implement password security within your organization so that everybody is following a password policy. Following NIST 800-63B is a really good format. That's online. You can use that. And then getting everyone to use a password manager. And again, company choice. One of you can look up top 10 best password managers and then select that one, and you as an organization can choose to move forward with using that so that everybody can protect their password managers, protect their passwords in a vault. It's a digital vault, and it would protect them because it encrypts them, and then no one can access them. And then it allows you to create new passwords that are lengthy and complicated so that they can't be breached. And then allows you every time to be able to it's a nice app because it allows you to be able to populate the passwords as you set it up with proper settings so that you don't even have to think about passwords anymore. And we have I would say about 110 passwords we're using with all the applications we're using on our phone and through work. So that's a lot of passwords to remember. So that's why the average amount of times employees reuse a password is 13, because again, there's just way too many passwords to use. So we want to be able to simplify that. And I would recommend using a password manager so that personally and professionally, you can just get that out of your mind. You don't have to worry about that particular type of cyber hygiene. You can just use the app and it can simplify your life. Now, AI is obviously everywhere you're looking, and deepfake is growing in terms of its role that it's kind of, it's good and bad, right? And I don't want to necessarily bash AI, but I just want to bring a couple things to your attention, right? I don't know if you've heard of this there's so much happening with AI, so much deepfake stuff happening. The AI tennis fan that has been everywhere that everyone thought was, well, whatever. She got lots of followings and she wasn't even real, or the deepfake band. They're using all sorts of methods to be able to generate interest in showing us that we can't tell fake from real. So this fake band that was just created generated millions of dollars in revenue and was a top band in Spotify. And it wasn't until the person who released it admitted, actually, that's not a real band. I did it for fake. It was a social experiment to see who would fall for this and who would like it, and not knowing it's not real music, or not a real human making real music. It was me creating it. So the trickery is really sophisticated, but really at the end of the day, I want you to know deepfake is real. Fake images are real. Fake videos are real. Fake information is real. So anything that you see now, our eyes can't necessarily distinguish either. So you have to, as a company, understand that's also going to be another threat for you regarding cyber, because business identity compromise happens using the deepfake technology, right? So it uses the corporate personas, or imitating existing employees, or high-ranking professionals, or it will use fake audio, fake videos, so that it will really just confuse us, and we will think it's real, and we will comply with what they're asking us to do. So we have to know that we have to be on guard even on that front. So we'll talk about a couple things that you can do to take away for today. So knowing that you have to be accountable and you are the human firewall would be the first step. So starting every day knowing you have to do certain things just to protect yourself. So passwords matter. So this is the gateway to your identity, and will continue to be a gateway to your digital identity, so following best practices would be critical, and changing passwords now and spending the next couple weeks changing your passwords so that you can be using proper passwords so that you have really solid, good cyber hygiene within your workplace would be step number one. Step number two would be using MFA for all of your critical accounts. Don't enter any software without it. I mean, I use it with Amazon, I use it with my banking, I use it with social media, I use it with every single thing, because social media is the easiest thing to hack. Easiest. If you look at how many records have been compromised with LinkedIn and Facebook, you would be daunted by the amount. It's just in the millions. So you realize that's the gateway to stealing these credentials. We might as well do what we can to protect them. And these, like MFA, just takes seconds. We all use it already because some of the software makes it mandatory, and some of probably your company policy is making it mandatory. But it's just also the other step that it verifies you are who you are entering in that software. And we want that. We want that because then it puts our mind at ease. This morning I woke up and I had a confirmation that my Starbucks account was being, compromised. And it said, someone's trying to reset your password. And so it said, verify that's you. So thank gosh I had that. Do I care? I mean, I don't have any money on I don't have a credit card or a gift card on my Starbucks account anymore. So it was fine. But still, at the end of the day, it's still my Starbucks account. And I still have a unique password with it anyway, but I just deleted it. I said no, and I deleted it. So there was no access granted. But I'm not going to minimize the fact that they try to access my Starbucks account, because again, it's an easy gateway and it's a domino effect into all the other software. If I had similar passwords with all my accounts, which I don't. I have a unique password for every account. Then also, don't believe every incoming communication. So have secure texting apps. Double check IM on social media because it has so many deep fakes. Follow company communication processes every time. So if you aren't sure about your company communication processes, double check them, talk about them as a team, and then follow those with diligence, because that is, again, how we can get circumvented and then we can get compromised. And then here's another fun one for you.
Hey, Maria, I think I got locked out of my work email. Can you text me the company bank details at this number?
We're really not supposed to do that. You should contact IT.
Yeah, I know, but the boss is asking me to take care of something right now. Just text the details to this number. I'll put in a ticket later.
Hang on. What's the safe word?
Maria, I don't have time for this. The boss is gonna be...
With AI, scammers can sound like anyone. Create a safe word with your workplace today. Learn more at staysafeonline.org.
So one next question for you is, if any one of you have set up a verification word with your teams. So Matt has just put up a poll, and love to know if you guys have gotten to that step yet. Yes or no? Now, as you can see, that's just a simple phone call, but that's exactly what's happening is whatever your role is, you could easily get an incoming phone call that has this sense of urgency or do something for me. And you might think it is your team mate, your team manager, your executive. So when you're in this position, when it's a request that you can say, well, it's out of ordinary, maybe, or maybe it is ordinary, but you're still not sure because it's coming in at like 7 o'clock at night, or maybe it's coming in at an odd time. There's a lot of things that we won't necessarily listen to in terms of like our gut instincts, like, oh, why are they calling me at 7 at night to do this? Or why are they asking me? I never do this. So that's why we want you to set up a verification word, because your need to set up that will spare you from this particular way of being targeted as well. So one of these things you can bring to your team meeting, you can talk about, and you can set up with everybody so that everyone's on the same page. Again, us and them. So Wi-Fi best practices. I would recommend when it comes to Wi-Fi, there's a lot of risks around Wi-Fi. So do two things. One is never do critical work on a Wi-Fi network, hotel, airport, coffee shops. And if you're going to do any critical work, do it beforehand or use your hotspot or use VPN. Okay, so those are the best practices you can use. So you can watch videos and all that stuff on your Wi-Fi, but just know that it's the critical work where you're accessing confidential data, because a Wi-Fi account from any particular location can be hijacked. I'm just going to use the word hijacked. And so a hacker can come in and pretend they're Starbucks and they're then just scraping all of your data. And then my last question for you is, what can you bring to your next team meeting? What specific cybersecurity questions could you bring to your next team meeting that could be a good discussion point?
Looks like, okay, we got our first response coming in. It says code word. Code word. It's a good, easy implementation.
Yeah.
Yeah, 90% of respondents don't have a code word.
Yeah.
So.
Password vault, awesome. And again, you don't have to be a subject matter expert. You don't have to be all-knowing in cybersecurity. The whole idea here is that to get everybody on the same page with some of these best practices starts with conversation. And it starts with not knowing. It starts with being curious by like talking about, what are we doing about this? What should we do about this? Could we do something to, could we create a verification word with our team? Well, could we make that so that everybody knows it and follows it when this and this and this happens? So that you can all feel like you're in it together, you're moving the needle forward, and you're building like simple best security practices to protect your organization in the most, fundamental ways.
We got get ChatGPT Premium as one of the responses here.
Yeah, that's a good one, because You, when it comes to AI, they're obviously all data scrapping. They're doing large language learning model training, and they're using all the data that's being inputted. So the more you use the versions like the enterprise version of Copilot, where it protects your data, and they're getting better and better as they evolve, but using the versions that protect your data and knowing that you shouldn't put any confidential data in the free versions, because that is going to the big world wide web of anybody can see it and access it. So it's no longer private. So those are some good ideas. Appreciate your input. It's something to think about. Like, you all could bring something to the next team meeting based on what we covered, and you can start a conversation, and you don't have to necessarily be rocking any boat. So I would recommend that. So what questions can I answer today?
We have a few questions, but I was just thinking maybe we could close out today's session, and then we'll get back to those questions for those who can stick around. And then if you do have to rush, we can leave you with whatever information you need to contact us and get that question answered. Does that sound good?
Sounds good. Sounds good.